Okay, well, welcome to another episode of the Rest and Recovery Podcast. With me is Michael Brandt. He's the co-founder and CEO of H.V.M.N. And Michael, thank you so much for taking the time and joining me.
Scott, thanks so much for having me on, and thanks to all the listeners for listening in. It's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the conversation. So H.V.M.N. is an acronym. What does it stand for?
Stands for Health via Modern Nutrition.
Okay.
Food, let thy food be thy medicine. Food has always been the first medicine, and we're being more thoughtful about what we eat now than ever. I don't just mean we at H.V.M.N. I think we as a society are being more thoughtful now than ever, and we at H.V.M.N. are trying to play a big role in that.
Yeah, I think you're onto something with that for sure. And both nutrition and food, and there's all this talk on the reduction of the quality of food out there, that you eat a tomato and it has less quality ingredients for you to absorb. So the importance of that balance of eating the quality food and then also the nutritional supplementation support to help facilitate some of those things.
Yeah, that's right.
So what got you guys started in creating this company? Was there something, because I saw your background, it seemed like you were in computer science, more on a technical side.
Yeah, I have a technical background. I studied computer science and product design at Stanford, and then personally got really into biohacking.
Okay.
I put my engineering hat on into my own life and performance optimization, and how do I get into better flow state at work. I got personally, as a hobby, got really into marathoning. I'm a sub-elite marathoner. I run 6-minute miles for the marathon. And
oh, wow. Awesome.
Actually, I what's cool there, I'm not, not winning the Olympics or anything, but top 1% of like a given marathon, I'll finish in the top 1%. And I got very quickly, like over the course of just a few years, by being very organized about my training, being very regimented. I do things like I'll go on a run. I'll run as fast as I can while keeping my heart rate under 140 BPM. So, and I'll track my cadence, make sure I have like quick cadence. My feet are hitting the ground a lot of times. I'll be very mindful about the right inputs and outputs in my system that lets me train hard. Also lets me recover so I can go train again the next day, and being very exacting about how I structure my runs, my week, my month, my overall training cycle, and have been able to make good progress. And then along the way, built this community, which is, I like to run marathons. Not everyone does. I got some.
I'm with you.
Thickness in my, okay.
Yeah. No, I'm a marathon runner myself. So not quite at that pace, but yeah.
Yeah. It's like, it's just, I don't think anyone does multiple marathons unless they got a screw or two loose, which I'm proud, you know what I mean? It's it's a fun way to blow off steam for sure. I enjoy the runs.
Yeah. It's great therapy.
Oh my God. It's so good for a million reasons. And I would say, even that's me and you and a lot of other people like marathoning, but everyone is doing metabolism all the time. Whether I think when you get into marathoning, you get really mindful of it. Okay, well, what happens when I'm running low on fuel and I'm bonking? What happens when I'm well fed and carb loaded? What happens if I'm doing like a sprint track workout versus a long run, an 18-mile run? Like what is your metabolism doing in these different contexts? I think you can learn a lot.
Yeah.
And at the same time, everyone's doing metabolism all the time. My mom, who is not a marathon runner, is doing metabolism all the time. Your brother's cousin's fiance is doing metabolism all the time. And we all have different goals, and whatever your goal is in life, whether you're trying to bulk or you're trying to live longer or you're trying to feel better throughout your day, it all comes back to what fuel you're using and how you're turning that into usable energy in your body, and AKA metabolism. And so that's what we've always been thinking about. So I came in from a computer science background and was asking the first principles questions of, okay, I want to be a better marathoner. I'm doing intermittent fasting. I'm doing all these different biohacks to optimize my day, my longevity, all those things. I think Elon Musk would call it like the first principles question. My co-founder and I, we started asking, okay, well, we're doing all these things to improve our metabolism. Why can't you go just drink a ketone? Like we're fasting and we're measuring our ketone levels. We're going on long runs, measuring our ketone levels. Why can't I just go and buy a ketone the way I can buy collagen or CBD or omega-3. And that pulling in that thread is where we got to where we are today. We launched the world's first ketone ester drink in 2017. We got a $6 million contract with the DoD Special Operations Command.
Oh, wow.
We just launched V2 of our product earlier this year, where we made it the consumer ready, where we brought down the price by 2/3, improved the efficacy, and we also made it taste more palatable. So lots going on. I'd say, yeah. So really specifically, like our flagship product is called Ketone IQ. We are not like a meal prep company. We're not doing a million things. We're very focused on ketones as a nutritional primitive. Everyone should be able to go to the store, buy their house, and buy a ketone the same way you have access to collagen or CBD. And there's a lot of good work done by the meal prep companies, everyone else, but we are focused on what we're focused on.
Yeah. And they all work in conjunction, right? Because we all need all that to work well. So just real quick, maybe define what a ketone is, just for those listening to understand, how and why that's important.
Yeah. A ketone is, there's a couple different layers of the onion. The real simple way is a ketone is a source of energy. So the same way sugar is a source of energy, ketones are a source of energy. So you feel it. Like if you eat a lot of sugar, you feel a sugar rush. If you eat ketones, you feel something. Ketones have a bunch of advantages over sugar. They're more efficient. They turn into usable energy, ATP, in your cell, using less oxygen. So they're more efficient. They also create less oxidative stress, less reactive oxygen species buildup. So they're basically cleaner fuel. They're creating less of the gunk buildup that sugar is bad for your metabolism. Sugar is generally like bad. Ketones are much cleaner. Another way to answer the question of like, what is a ketone is, well, ketone is something your body makes, right? Like caffeine, your body does not make it. You got to eat a coffee bean or a tea leaf or something. Ketones are something your body makes. Human body's always made ketones for 300,000 years. We make ketones when we're in a low carb state. A lot of people have heard about the ketogenic diet, where you eat so low carb and or you're fasting and or you're exercising, you burn off these carbs, you get into a low carb state and your body will start making ketones. So we're in this interesting spot where we're kind of straddling, like ketones are the most ancient source of nutrition. Like you on the savannah 300,000 years ago, you have elevated levels of ketones. And then here we are in 2022. And the most modern nutrition is like, okay, well, we have a ketone in a bottle, and it's kind of full circle. Is it this old thing or this new thing?
Right.
Both.
That's awesome. So, and to your point, I mean, it's important on the clean energy, and the fact, to your point, that we make that inherently. We're not really ginning up the system when we consume this. It's almost like working with the body naturally. It would seem. Keep me honest if I'm off on that.
Yeah, it's something your body is already making naturally. Sorry, was there more to the question too?
Well, I was just more an observation, as in like, you, instead of using a caffeine based beverage or something like that to kind of get yourself amped up and the energy, the ketone is going to kind of work with the system to naturally give that rise and fall, as opposed to like, that caffeine crash that we all get.
Yeah. So that's a really interesting point. You're absolutely right. Where ketones are a substrate. So there's a source of energy, there's calories inside of ketones. They're an energy substrate, and your body uses substrates for all the different things that your body needs energy for. So for muscle use, for muscle recovery, for brain cognition, having better attention span, better memory, your neuron cells, so all of your heart cells, cardiac metabolism, like anything that your body is needing energy for, you need some sort of substrate, and you're pulling carbohydrates or fat or ketones or a blend. And ketones in particular are a really interesting substrate. We've known about all these benefits because your body can make ketones. So scientists have been looking at ketones for 100 years endogenously, like when your body makes its own ketones. And it's more recently that we've figured out a way to make a ketone and directly drink it. When you compare, so we're talking about like ketones versus caffeine. Like caffeine is not a substrate. Caffeine has no calories in it. Caffeine is very specific. It's an adenosine blocker. So adenosine is your sleep hormone, and caffeine blocks it. So you feel less sleepy, more alert. I think we all know how caffeine subjectively makes us feel. A lot of people makes you feel more amped up. And yeah. And what caffeine's basically doing is it's increasing brain activity. It's increasing your body's alertness, but it's not providing you with any actual energy. It's creating an energy demand. And then where is that energy coming from? Maybe it's coming from energy you already have stored, or maybe you're eating something along with your caffeine. That caffeine's basically like it's a stimulant. It's interacting with your hormones. It's stimulating you. And then you're using some kind of substrate, right? You're using something to supply that energy demand. And that's where, so I'm pro caffeine. I would say caffeine and ketones stack well together for that reason, because caffeine like gets the engine going. And then, okay, what is the actual fuel that's going into it
to sustain that?
Right. And like, do you want to have, caffeine? Do you want to have, a lot of people, I would say over the last decade have learned like, hey, the Frappuccino sugar bomb with 49 grams of sugar. Okay. That's, you're getting amped up on the caffeine, and then the sugar is supplying it, but it's like a very dirty form of fuel, right? You're like putting straight diesel into the engine, versus a lot of people over the last decade have started to look at, bulletproof coffee and low carb, high fat, high healthy fats, MCTs. Hey, what's this form of nutrition I can have that's going to convert into a cleaner substrate? Like MCTs convert into ketones. And that's the whole premise of the bulletproof coffee concept, is that have fat instead of sugar.
Right.
And what we're doing is taking it to the next level of, okay, that's cool. And then what if you can also directly drink a ketone where you're not gated on your body, like converting fat into ketones. You can have it in in 10 minutes, your ketone levels will be rising if you drink a ketone.
Okay. No, that makes sense. Kind of like you said, it's just kind of working together and with it, and to keep that and maintain that cleaner energy. And I mean, for me, some people are more sensitive to caffeine than others. I mean, it's not that I'm against it in any way. I drink coffee every morning, but being able to do it wisely so that you're not getting those crashes and those like peaks and valleys.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but I like a lot of people in my network like don't touch caffeine after noon anymore.
I'm the same way.
It's great in the morning. I love it to start the day, right? It's a nice ritual.
Yep.
Wake up my daughter, play some, we play this one song when she wakes up in the morning, drink my cup of coffee. Like it's part of the morning ritual for sure, but it's just counterproductive. If you start having it into the afternoon, then it interferes with your sleep and you just end up on this crazy hamster wheel where you feel crappy the next day. And I think people are getting it right, because I don't know, like everyone's got their Oura Ring or their Whoop or their Apple Watch. It's like, it barks at you and it lets you know, hey, your sleep score was 72. It's like, why couldn't I fall asleep last night? Maybe it's the 2 cups of coffee I had at 4 p.m. Like,
right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm totally the same way. I've had to stop before 12 o'clock. And I know if I have like a Coke which I don't really even drink hardly ever, but, have something with a lunch, I'll be up till 2 a.m. and that just sets me off on a negative spiral.
Yeah. Cause it has that 6-hour half-life.
Yeah.
That
if
you have 100 milligrams of caffeine right now, in 6 hours, there's still 50 milligrams of caffeine floating around. So I think it's a good rule of thumb, which is like however much coffee that you're drinking right now, would you be okay drinking half as much coffee 6 hours from now? Cause that's basically what you're doing.
Yeah.
So if it's 6 p.m. and you're having, or 4, I don't know, if it's 4 p.m. and you're having a cup of coffee, it's like, okay, at 10 p.m., do you want to be drinking half a cup of coffee right before bedtime? And it helps you like do the math on it. Well, okay, I want to give myself at least a couple of decay cycles. So if I'm having it, I don't know, 8 a.m. I just draw a hard line before noon. I usually have it way earlier. And then throughout the day, it's like you get to cut it in half a couple different times.
Yeah. And that's where, I mean, personally, looking into things like Ketone IQ, on being able to get that clarity throughout the day. So you can get, like you said, that focus and some of that deep work that you need to do throughout the day, working with the circadian rhythm a little bit, hopefully.
Oh yeah.
To try and, optimize the day, and then be able to turn it on when you need to turn it on, but also know when to turn it off.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad you said circadian rhythm. I think that's the topic of the moment. And something that I think we should all be more mindful of. And I think a lot of times we're battling against it. Like we're trying to like force it the wrong way. It's like, you gotta ride the wave. Like you can't, you can't like go up when it's going down, or down when it's going up. it's, I think the best performance optimizers listen to their own body and they know, okay, like energy is rising. Okay, maybe that's a good time to have some caffeine. Like when your energy is rising earlier in the day, okay, ride it. And then at the end of the day, like get off the horse. Like don't ride it so hard. Like give your body a chance to recover, and so you can do it again the next day. Like you don't want to be, you can't like break the laws of physics, right? You can't break the laws of like your own body. I think it's always a short-term payoff versus if you get really in touch with yourself and you ride the wave every day, then the compounding benefits is how you really, make it big in life.
Yeah. And it's funny in conversations and even my own past, it was, the justification for not sleeping was for productivity.
Yeah.
And it's really undermining the very intent. It's at best good intention misapplied.
It's a deal with the devil. Like you will always, you can always get a little bit. Yeah. You can get, if I pull an all-nighter, I can get like 2 days of work done in a day, but then my next, like at this point, like 3-4 days are going to be trashed. And it's like, okay, well, you just trade it. This is kind of a nerdy analogy, but if people play like Settlers of Catan, it's like you're trading the one sheep for the 3-4 sheep for like one wood. Like you're trading like a lot of future. You're borrowing from the future, like several days into the future to get like a couple hours. And look, if you have a board meeting tomorrow or your kid is sick or like shit hits the fan, it's good to have that reserve. Like sometimes it's go time and you got to pull the all-nighter.
Right.
But like, just know that it's not efficient. Like if the goal is to, hey, I want to get, really maximum amount of work done this month, right? I want to build my following. I want to build my customer base. I want to launch a new product, like whatever it is that you're going for in life. Like you should be thinking in months and quarters and years, and burning the candle at both ends for like a day. It's really working against you. Yeah. Sometimes you got to do it, but it should always be the exception. It's like breaking the speed limit. It's like, yo, sometimes you got to go. I don't know. The water broke. We're driving 80.
Yes,
like,
right.
Let's go.
Yeah,
like we're 90. Let's push it. Let's go. But like, it can't be the normal mode of operating.
Yeah. That lifestyle habit that somehow has been hijacked, I think, in the hustle culture, that we've convinced ourselves that 2 a.m. every night is the thing. And to your point, I really like borrowing from your future. I like that perspective because I think that really gives the investment strategy. It's really a invest 3 to get 1 back kind of thing.
Yeah. It's like someone good at math, like help me, like, why is my life not coming together? It's like, well, your exchange rate sucks, bro. Like and another interesting topic, I'm sure, too, just with marathoning is, Strava, the running app.
Yep. Yeah.
They did. Yeah. Cool. I'll follow you on there.
Nice.
There's a big study that they showed where with pro marathoners, 80% of their miles are at slower than race pace. So you take your pro marathoner, they're running, 70, 80, 90, 100 plus. I mean, the really pro ones are running like 110, 120 miles a week. And most of those miles are slower than their marathon pace, which for most people, your marathon pace is going to be already a lot slower than your 1 mile pace. So right. Even the pro marathoners are going on an 8-mile run, not a 26-mile run. They're going on an 8-mile run and they're doing that slower than their normal marathon pace. And there's an interesting lesson in there for anyone training for a marathon, but also just as an analogy for life in general. It's the compounding slow and steady that builds that training effect. And it's the fact that you're running a little slower, but you're able to get up and do it again tomorrow, or you're able to do, if you're really in peak training, you're doing 2 a days and you're able to go at a lower volume and recover and then do it again and again and again. And it's that compounding benefit. You're not trying to be a hero on any one workout.
Right.
And even those 20% when you're going like faster than race pace, I mean, those are usually dedicated speed workouts where you're like going to the track and you're doing 400s, but then you're not doing a ton of volume on that day. You're just really working on speed work. And so it's not a lot of like overall volume on that day. And so there's something about, I think getting into marathons fundamentally changed me as far as my approach to life in general. Like, you don't need to be a hero today. It's the aggregate compounding, be a hero over like a 4-month training block. Yeah. Train hard, win easy, as they say. Like stack it up and have it compound, and then you'll be really good.
Yeah, I really like that perspective a lot. I can relate, and I can relate to not doing it wisely either, for a season. And like, to your point, that compounding interest really goes a long way. And I've been using the mantra a little bit lately is success is boring. You know what I
Yes,
mean?
I
Cause
love that.
it's just kind of like this slow, steady. And I think that's where maybe I want to say blame culture as if we're victims, but we've gotten it wrong. Like it has to be this intense game time, like engagement every single time you step out.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. A lot of people, it's this story that I think it's perpetuated in your Marvel movies or whatever, and just in culture in general. I think with a lot of the imagery that we're fed, we want to believe that we can just willpower it to happening. I think a lot of people, when I tell them about marathoning or my marathon time, they just think I'm like, I have insanely good willpower on the day of. It's like that I just like chew glass and withstand an insane amount of pain. It's like, it's not that it's easy on race day, but it's like, it's not as hard as you think. Like what's hard is the boring stuff. The really boring, hey, I'm going on another 8-mile cruise run on another
Right.
Tuesday. And I just like last Tuesday, just like tomorrow, just like yesterday, like, and I love that quote actually. So success is boring. Like you get so, you almost like what's challenging about like marathoning is extremely challenging, but what's challenging about it isn't what people think. It's not like being a hero on the race day.
Right.
It's that you made room for it and you committed to the discipline day by day for many, many days.
Yep.
And then, yeah, it's in that lens, it's boring. Although, I mean, boring, it's like, you could also say is, it's meditative. Like, I think you and I know, like,
Yeah.
it's
But I
like,
mean, the point of like the boring is to amplify it because it's not this necessarily fancy move like on a basketball court or some insane thing. It's just like even basketball, like Kobe Bryant, he was known to spend hours and hours and hours. But I want to say all he was doing was dribbling and a basic shot. Like there
yeah,
was no fancy crossover or spinning around or any of that stuff. He practiced the foundations
yeah,
more than
yeah.
anybody else.
It's about keeping it simple. And one of the reflections I have on that in life is that in order to keep it so simple on one thing, you really need to cross out a lot of other goals in life. Warren Buffett has this advice. He's like, make a list of the 25 things you want to do in life and cross out number 6 through 25. Those are the ultimate distractions. Like you can focus on the top 5. You can get your 5 biggest dreams and goals. Those can all come true, but you can't, it's like, oh, I'm kind of number 16 on my list is whiskey tasting or something. That's going to distract you from the top 5. And the way that you're able to make room for that, the way that if you're Kobe Bryant able to make room for basketball, it's like, yeah, you're not doing a million other things at the same time. And you have to go really deep into the simplicity and find the joy within the small set of areas that you're applying yourself, rather than trying to go be everywhere, spread yourself too thin.
Yeah, I think that's a huge lesson. I think many of us because the world is our oyster, especially in a lot of the modern cultures. Options are abundant,
Yeah,
and you can always do anything and see anything or try anything. So you can get caught up in that FOMO,
it's
for
crazy.
sure.
I think that's the modern challenge. I think the context like switched on us, and our like genetics and brain chemistry haven't changed,
Right.
but like the entire context has. Where even within our lifetimes, and definitely within the last 100 years, we went from having to like scrounge for information or scrounge for, hey, you got to like care, and then you go pursue the thing. You got to like subscribe to a magazine if you care about a certain topic. Like there was some like barrier to
Only
entry. Now you're
so
just like,
so many paths to get through.
right. And now it's just, you're inundated. Like it's insane. It's like, yeah, you can just look at the Wikipedia page for anything in a second on your smartphone. And like, I heard this comedian talking about how like you just wake up one day and you'd be like, I wonder where Tom Petty is from. And you would be left wondering, and you just wouldn't know. And you'd just be thinking about it, and you
Yeah.
would talk to people. you'd see your neighbors walking your dog, you'd make some small talk, you'd ask them, like, do you know where Tom Petty is from? And you would just not know the answer for weeks. And then eventually you would see someone wearing a Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers shirt. And oh my God, this person must know. You ask her, oh my God, Tom Petty's from Florida. And then that woman becomes your wife. Like that's how you like spark the conversation. And it's like, wow, that world like does not exist anymore for us. Cause you're just like, oh, Tom Petty is from Wikipedia says he's from Florida. Like we're just giant info crunching machines. And the exercise has become, hey, there's overabundance of information. We need to really focus on less things, focus on what really matters, and put blinders on to a lot else that's going on in the world. I think that's the modern dilemma that we're in. It's just too much going on, and your attention is the most limited, scarce resource, and you got to manage it.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of to that point, we'll go back to the Ketone IQ. You know, helps with a lot of those things. So is there like a recommend? So I have the bottle here, and there's 10 servings in each bottle. So do you have like a recommended dosing, so to speak, on like how much you consume at a particular time or a particular protocol based on goals, I guess?
Yeah, I'll always start out the day with a shot. I'll have black coffee, I'll have athletic greens and some water, and I'll drink some Ketone IQ. It's a nice way to start the day. It lets me be non-glycolytic, so I'm not eating like carbs or sugar in the first part of the day. It lets me basically extend my overnight fast for another few hours.
Okay.
And then I'll start like materially breaking my fast around lunchtime. And that feels really nice to me. I feel really dialed in. A big part of what you get out of an overnight fast is that your body, while you're sleeping, is like burning down your glucose levels. You're starting to upregulate the ketones that you're making. And so being able to start the day with drinking some ketones, it really helps to continue that overnight fast. And then I'll sip it throughout the day. Again, it's just another form of energy. One way to think about it is like what are the moments in life where you need to be hydrated? Like if it's 11 a.m. and you're at a spot in your circadian rhythm, it's 11 a.m. energy is probably rising or peaking, and if you're dehydrated, you're going to have a harder time concentrating on work or whatever you're doing. So you should go drink some water. If it's 11 p.m., it's time for your body to go to sleep, rest and recovery mode. Like your circadian rhythm is dipping and your parasympathetic nervous system is starting to activate, rest and recovery mode. If you're thirsty, you're going to have a hard time going to sleep. Your brain's going to have a hard time doing all the repair that it needs to do while you're asleep. So you look at it, it's okay, water at 11 a.m., it's giving me energy, but at 11 p.m., it's helping me go to sleep. How is this possible? How can the same thing be doing both? And it's because water is like the pinnacle of like the primitives. It's like we're all made out of water, like the earth, the planet, we're all like 60-70% water. So of course it helps like whatever your circadian rhythm is trying to direct you to do, you need water for. And then like the next level after water is like substrates. Like what are you using energy for? And it's the same thing. It's like whatever, if you're at an energy peak, then ketones are going to help you to get into flow state. They're going to provide your brain with energy to get into flow state. If it's the end of the day and it's time to go to sleep, ketones are going to help your body with rest and recovery, and they're going to actually amplify the parasympathetic activity that's going on.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. So to go into the science of it, there was this study done by this Belgian research group where they did a 3-week study. They had people training twice a day on bikes for 3 weeks. And it was meant to imitate the Tour de France, like basically super tough endurance rides for 3 weeks straight. And they had 2 groups. One of the groups had ketones, the other had flavor matched placebo, so no ketones. And they were allowed, besides the ketones, they were allowed to eat as much as they wanted of whatever. And in the ketone group, they showed at the end of 3 weeks that they had 15% higher training load. They were able to train 15% more. Wow. And they were able to, at the final time trial, at the end of those 3 weeks, they were performing 5% faster. And when they looked like day by day, when they looked at what was going on inside the body, they showed that people were basically, there's certain stress hormones that kick in when you're overtraining.
Yeah.
Which if anyone's like really gotten into endurance sports or weightlifting or like really overdone it, like you stop being hungry. Yeah, you overtrain, and it's weird because you just ran like a lot, but your body's so into like fight or flight mode that you're actually not hungry. You've like suppressed your appetite, which is counterproductive because you just exercise a lot today. Your body actually needs a lot of nutrition. And if you're going to go exercise a lot tomorrow, you definitely need nutrition. And so there's this mechanism that happens when you overtrain, where your body basically gets like overly locked into sympathetic activity, fight or flight mode. And that's what basically was happening in this study. And that ketones were able to pull people out of that, get them into, they were able to suppress the stress hormone. People were able to recover better. They're able to see elevation in parasympathetic resting recovery.
Wow.
And that's what contributed at the end of the day to higher training load and faster time trial performance at the end.
That's huge. And it was in a 3-week span?
Yeah, it was over 3 weeks. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's interesting, right? Like a lot of times we want the quick answer of like, hey, if I drink this right now, is it going to help me crush my workout? And there is something there where, yeah, like if your brain, ketones cross the blood-brain barrier, they're a substrate, so your neurons will use them. If you're like, you can use them as a pre-workout. I'll drink them before going on a run. Like it does help for that, immediate acute performance boost. But what's even more interesting is the compounding effect. It's like you're using like this cleaner form of gasoline, like the gas that's all the way on the right at the gas station. And the compounding off of that over several weeks is what starts being really interesting. I mean, the opposite would be like alcohol, right? Like if you have a drink once, okay, like, that's not great for you. But then what's really bad is if you're having like 2 drinks a night every night for 3 weeks or for 3 years or for 30 years, like then that like compounding effect is really bad for you. And I think a lot of people know that at this point about alcohol. It's like, so the fuel that you're putting in your body really matters, and it's going to affect what outcomes that you're seeing on a compounding basis.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, with some of it, especially with the alcohol piece, is like it can trick your body and your mind a little bit to think you have like, think about when you first start with a drink or two, you feel good, you're upbeat and whatever, but then you got that back end piece of it that you just crash out or hungover, depending on the load, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, alcohol is rough. Alcohol is like, it's really interesting to me that it's so widely used and legal and all that. Like I have no problem with it. I just think it's interesting when you juxtapose it next to other things that are considered illegal. Which is interesting. Like alcohol is not this like innocuous thing. I mean, even just putting like drunk driving aside, which is massive, but like just like the damage that it's doing to people's bodies. One interesting thing I always see is really interesting when you go to a Whole Foods or another premium natural grocery store, their tagline is always, or their implication is always like, hey, if it's inside of here, it's good for you. Like if it's inside our 4 walls, it's good for you. And like, so they won't sell you Diet Coke, right? Like they like the sugar, the sucralose, whatever, not good for you. We don't stock that. But then they'll always have a liquor aisle. It'll always be like more expensive. It'll be like artisanal whiskey.
Right.
And it's just interesting because like, if you actually look at it, like Diet Coke versus a shot of vodka is worse for you. Like it's like like ethanol is just, it's poison. And I'm saying this as someone who drinks now and then. Like I'm not like total teetotaler. Like I get it. Like sometimes you trade it. It's like, yeah, I want to have a fun night. Like I will drink a little bit of poison, have some fun, all good. Not gonna be the end of the world. But it's interesting how we've been conditioned to think from the way that it's framed up by certain grocery stores. Like is like we vilified Diet Coke, which is like, I don't think Diet Coke's like this amazing thing for you, but like ethanol is like actively actually bad for you versus like some sweeteners. It's like definitely less bad for you than sugar. And it's definitely less bad for you than ethanol. Is it fully diet? Is it like going to make you like fit and slim and like make you hit all your diet goals? Is it actively good for you? Yeah. Okay. Maybe not, but like, it's interesting how we've skewed our understanding of the space.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a great point on the context of what are the bad guys in the food and beverage industry. And I think you bring up a great point, because you're starting to see, CBD has obviously been growing for a while, but now I'm starting to see some of the stuff around things like psychedelics and microdosing and like alternative alcoholic beverages.
Yeah.
Um, there's one I can't remember with, I think, kava in it, which is like,
Nice.
so anyway, all
Like
that to
kava is
a root.
a root like that's it was isn't it really big in the like Pacifica, like the like
I,
island nations,
I
and
think so.
it's
I
like a
don't remember
ground up
exactly
root.
the origination, but yeah. And then,
And
no, go ahead.
yeah, that I've had it a couple of times. It's relaxing. It chills you out, and it doesn't have the hangover that
Yeah.
alcohol does, and it's a lot more gentle on your system.
Yeah. And it's definitely interesting culturally, where we've had conversations with friends where, as we're having, you know, a hard seltzer or cocktail or whatever, debating this, and most people are like, no. And I'm like, "I- tomato, tomato. I mean,
Right.
honestly, and at the end of the day, it's all about whether it's the training or the consumption of certain beverages. It's about load management,
Yeah.
right? It's about having the proper amount that isn't going to have the negative effects.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, everything in moderation. I think if
Yeah.
you have a drink now and then it's fine. But I think it's helpful to understand that it's not like it may be normalized in our society, but our society is also not well. And that if you want the same results as everyone else in society, okay, go do what everyone else is doing. But if you're trying to be top decile or percentile of successful or ambitious or whatnot, like you probably,
Or even your top self, like,
yeah, trying to be
you
your
know,
best self. Like you're not going
just,
to get there with, I mean, it just, if you're hungover, like you're not going to have a great next day. It's not going to be awesome. Um,
yeah. And,
so like, just be wise
especially,
about it.
I've got 3 kids, and I don't want to show up for them cranky and hungover. And you mentioned you have a daughter, and
Yeah.
I'm sure she's little. You don't want to show up the wrong way for your kids.
Yeah, it's another example of borrowing from the future, right? It's like, okay, I might have like a really awesome time tonight for a couple hours, but I'm going to be borrowing like all day of tomorrow. And are you okay with that exchange rate? And you can make that decision. Yes, I am okay with it. It's
Yeah.
my birthday. I don't whatever. It's this big
Right.
celebration. Like it's Friday. Like, okay, this weekend is just writing it down to zero. Like, okay, fine to be hungover. Like I want to stack within these few hours. All my friends are here and we're celebrating, and like I want to like make it maximum fun, and I'm okay borrowing from the bank for like the next 2 days off of that. That's a decision you can make. And I think it's the correct decision sometimes. But I think
Yeah.
if it's a random Tuesday and you're having like 2, 3, 4 beers, it's like, well, did you consciously decide that you want to borrow from tomorrow?
Right.
Or is it just the habit that you're in? I think unpacking that a little bit. I think one thing I think is helping people a lot is the proliferation of wearables. Like we were talking about earlier, the
Yeah.
Auras and the Whoops and
Well,
the Apple Watches and the levels, continuous glucose monitors, things like that. Really seeing like it's just an objective gut check that like, yeah, my sleep score was like way worse when I had a drink. Like,
absolutely. Oh
and
man, I've
just
seen my HRV tank horribly.
yeah, it absolutely like your HRV heart rate variance is supposed to be high, especially when you're sleeping. It means that your parasympathetic nervous system is like modulating and in control, and you're doing rest and recovery, and your heart rate is supposed to vary. When your heart rate variance is low, that means you're still in fight or flight mode. Your heart rate's just boom, boom, boom. Like it's not, it's supposed to be varying more when you have parasympathetic activation. Uh, so yeah,
Yeah.
like if you're doing something that's like crushing your HRV score, you're not gonna feel great afterwards.
Yep. Yep. Um, well, we're coming close on time, Michael.
Yeah.
What uh, what did I miss on the benefits of this, to make sure that people understand, this is a good option to help support their healthy lifestyle?
I would just say like, try it out with other habits and rituals that are already working for you. I don't think of Ketone IQ as an either or. Like if you're already into nootropics or you're already into a certain recovery stack, this is not like a either or thing. It's that when you're drinking a recovery drink, if you have ketones alongside it, that accelerates the rate of muscle glycogen reuptake and muscle protein resynthesis. Like whatever your body is trying to go and do, ketones are a really clean source of energy that will help compound on top of that. And so I think it's pretty low risk to try out, where it's not like, oh, swap it for your coffee, or if a lot of people love their specific nootropic stack or like plant-based medicines or whatever, it's like, okay, like try that, but also try that with the best fuel and see if you're getting a compounding benefit out of it. I think that's the main thing I would share.
Yeah.
I don't know, just general advice, do something active every day, like take it easy on yourself, like try to do,
That's a big one.
yeah, try to do less in a given day, but try to have like a straight month of really solid days. Like we were talking about earlier, don't try and be a hero. Just try to be solid. Like
Yeah.
be
Singles and
solid
doubles
every
all
day
day.
yeah.
Well, I like thanks for the time, and I'm really intrigued by what you guys are doing. I like to close it out with a few personal questions.
Let's go.
What are you reading right now?
What am I reading right now? Okay, I just bought this for my team as well, is Build by Tony Fadell. So Tony is the guy that built the iPhone. Everyone, Steve Jobs built the iPhone, right? Steve Jobs was like the vision guy. And in his biography, Tony Fadell is mentioned as like the guy who, like, Steve Jobs went and hired Tony to go and build the thing. Steve Jobs, okay, gets all the points for like the vision and like, yeah, we're going to put a computer in everyone's pocket. Cool. Tony Fadell is the guy that actually did it, like actually built it. And he has a lot of thoughts about product design, product management, team structure. How do you set an ambitious goal? They launched the iPod in something like 10 months, like insane. And he just breaks it down. Like, how did we make trade-offs? How did we think about who to hire? How did we think about org chart management? So I think it's interesting for anyone who's in any kind of business. I'm really liking that book, Build by Tony.
That sounds awesome. And kind of on the theme with that is understanding trade-offs. What we've kind of talked about, right? Borrowing from the future is kind of understanding that configuration.
I mean, people forget, like, the iPhone V1 did not even have an app store. Like it was just a phone with no keyboard and like a calculator, and everyone was like, this sucks. Not everyone, a lot of the tech press and competitors are like, this is stupid. You have no keyboard, but they had the long vision in mind. It's like, okay, well, by taking away the keyboard, we're creating an organic interface. And then, okay, like step by step, let's give ourselves 18 months to launch V2. And then we're going to open up an app store. And then we're going to open up this, and then you have everything that followed from there. But they got the core thing out. Maybe it wasn't perfect. And then they iterated on there from there. And I think there's a good lesson inside of that the iPhone that we know and understand, like, I don't think there's a big difference between iPhone 11 and iPhone 14, to be honest. Hope no one from Apple is going to yell at me. I don't think that the step changes that much anymore, but I think from version 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 up to I don't know, somewhere in version 6, 7, 8, it kind of asymptoted to a steady state of, okay, you got Uber, you got Instagram, you got the core things work on your phone.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't there on the V1. I think that's the important thing, is they got something out the door that turned heads, got a customer base, gave them the inspiration, the motivation to keep going and do version 2, version 3.
Yeah. Got feedback. That's huge.
Yeah.
All right. What are you listening to right now? Be it music or podcast?
I listen to a lot of, maybe it doesn't surprise people, I listen to a lot of binaural beats. Okay. I really like this app called Endel.
Endel?
Endel. It's automated algorithmic binaural beats, so it never ends. You never have to worry about getting bored or changing the track or whatever. Sometimes I'll use just Spotify or YouTube. I'll type in binaural beats, but I like this Endel app. It's really cool. It's it's just nice because I love all kinds of music. I like jazz, hip hop, classical. I listen to a lot of different types of music, but when I'm working, that stuff is too much energy. I like that when I'm driving or something, but when I'm working, I really like I only like the music to be like 30% interesting. If it's like the new like J. Cole album or something, it's gonna be too distracting. I'm like gonna get
You're gonna
hooked
get
into
sucked
it.
into it. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to listen to like just kind of ambient binaural beats, good vibes. Feels like it keeps me more on track than just total silence. I really like it. Yeah, this one app in particular is called Endel. I have no connection with them, whatever, but I think they're great.
Cool.
Nice work if they're listening in. Thank you.
I will definitely check that out. I'm always looking for something like that where I want to like some of these others I've tried and it just doesn't seem, maybe I'm not doing it long enough or what have you. But all right. So what is your go-to rest and recovery method?
Go-to rest and recovery. Okay, I'm a big fan of heat therapy, saunas.
Mm-hmm.
I am not as big of a fan of ice baths. Maybe this is controversial in the space. I know there's a lot of discussion around like ice baths are really cool. I know a lot of people also like saunas. My whole take on recovery is that when you exercise a lot, your body is inflamed and that's a good, healthy thing. You have expanded, dilated blood vessels. You have more blood and nutrition and oxygen going to your muscles. That's a good thing. And then if you go into a sauna, that's going to accentuate into that. It's going to further dilate you. You're going to get better circulation. You're going to get better rest and recovery. Going into an ice bath is like the last thing you want to do. It's because it's going to constrict everything. It's going to squeeze all the blood out.
Mm-hmm.
I think ice bath is good if you need to perform again tomorrow. Like if you're in a 3-day soccer tournament or you're pro MLB player, you got to ice your arm, whatever. Okay. Like, yes, but again, on that theme of like, you're trading off from the future, like the way to get the best compounding benefit off of recovery is like, you actually want to let the inflammation take place and then pass. And then that's how you get the best muscle growth out of it. And so if you're trying to optimize for being like stronger, faster in a week or a month, like don't take the ibuprofen and go into the ice bath. Like that's working against you. If you absolutely must, you're at the tournament, today's Saturday, you got to do it again tomorrow. I don't want to be inflamed. I don't want to be sore. Okay. Take the ibuprofen, do the ice bath. But if you have a marathon in like 3 months and you did a long run today, like let your body heal and like lean into it with some sauna. And then, all the nutrition stuff that we've been talking about, like make sure, even if you're a runner, make sure, I think a lot of runners forget, like it's a muscle activity too. Like a lot of runners, I don't think eat enough protein, like eat your damn protein, like eat like you're a weightlifter, even if you're a runner, otherwise you're just, when your body's tired, it's eating your own muscle and you're just going to get weaker and it's going to work against you. Have ketones on top of it. They do accelerate muscle protein resynthesis.
Sleep,
cool. Get you
sleep.
Nice
Absolutely.
Sleep.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of infrared sauna.
Nice.
Yeah. Big fan of it. I prefer that over the cold, but like you said, I mean, I guess they have their values, but it's more about positioning.
Yeah. One thing you can do to like incorporate both is like, one thing that does work is like the cycling, like you do a sauna and then a cold plunge and then a sauna. That's actually good because then you're like basically dilating and engorging your blood. You're getting nutrition and then you're like constricting it to like clear out the toxins. And then you're dilating again. I do think, okay, like
a hot cold cycle.
If we're really going into it, yeah, hot cold cycle is really good. But just cold and then calling it a day, I personally would not recommend that for people that are going for peak performance.
Cool. Yeah, I can't get into the cold very well, but maybe morning showers or something like that. Finish off the shower with a little cold. But Michael, thank you so much, man, for your time, your insights, and look forward to seeing where HVMN goes.
Thanks so much, Scott. It's a lot of fun.
Take care.
Take care.